How you guys doing? My name is Josie Carr. I'm an electronic musician, producer, and NYU professor for electronic music production and software. Today I'll be talking about Pro Tools and Ableton and how to use them together via Rewire. A couple of weeks ago I did one with Ableton and Logic, so feel free to stop by my channel and check it out. I'll try to make this video as fast as or as short as possible because I know you guys like short videos. So with that said, let's get to it. Let's do it. The first thing that we need to do is we need to launch Pro Tools, because Pro Tools will be the master. That means that's where you'll be doing most of your sequencing, most of your mixing and everything else. And Ableton will be the slave. In other words, that's where you're probably going to find your loops or anything else that's secondary or things you might want to add to it as well. Ableton is great because just of the way that it works with the flexing and warping features. With that said, let's do it. I'm going to launch Pro Tools as I'm talking to you guys. Here, the way that this works, basically, Rewire is a plugin, and that's what we're getting ready to do here, set it up. Okay, so I'm going to share my screen with you guys. So you guys should be able to see my screen now, and right now I have just a regular session that I opened up, and let me just go into the mixer part of it because I want to make sure that it's not too loud for us. That's pretty good level. Fantastic. So now the next thing that we need to do is we need to set up a track in Pro Tools. So Pro Tools will receive the output of Ableton. And also for Pro Tools, we'll launch the Rewire plugin and let Ableton know that when it launches, it will be working in a Rewire mode. Okay? If you don't do that first, then when you launch Ableton, Ableton is just going to work as a standalone host as it's supposed to work, right? So let's do that. I can create a new track here just by scrolling to the bottom and adding it there if I want to. Okay, so why don't we just do that since we're here? Or we can also do it in the mixer. I would prefer to do it in the mixer just because I could bring the level down. So I'm going to click on my last track and I can add the track here. I'm just going to go to new. Okay, and I'm going to set up a stereo track. I can either do an audio track, auxiliary track, or an instrument track, right? I'm just going to use an auxiliary track. Stereo, and I'm just going to call it Ableton. Okay. Fantastic. And I'm just going to bring the level down because I don't want to launch something from Ableton. When I do launch Ableton, it might be too loud for us. Okay, I'm going to scroll all the way to the top here, and I'm going to go into the insert section of it. I'm going to scroll down to instrument, and the instrument that we're going to be using is Ableton Live. Okay, Ableton Live is going to open up, and we're going to select the output to be the output of Ableton, the left and right output of Ableton. We're all set. I'm going to close that. If you need to open that again, you can always hit the inserts and open it and close it. Great. I have my track set up in Pro Tools. I've labeled to Ableton. I'm just going to move it over a little bit here so we can have it there. I can lower and raise the volume. Next thing I need to do, obviously, is launch Ableton. And you guys are going to see that when it launches Ableton, Ableton will say that it will be running as a Rewire device, which is exactly what we want. There you go, running as Rewire device. That means that they're going to be in sync, and that means that Pro Tools has initiated the Rewire plugin, right? Let's close this here. Okay. And just to show you guys, if I were to hit play, right, let's close this mixer here. We can see that they're already in sync, right? And let's do the opposite of that. Whoops, not that. And you guys can see that we can start it from Pro Tools as well. Okay, and now obviously we want to be able to hear the audio coming from Ableton into Pro Tools, and let's play this guy here for a second. Okay, cool. Now let's find something that we can play in Ableton, right? Let's say we love that just for the sake of this example. Okay, let's hit play. And we can see it right there. We can bring the volume up. We can also turn off some tracks here on the original song in Pro Tools. Now we just have that beat. Let's say we love it, right? For the sake of this tutorial to be short, let's go back into Ableton. And what we're going to do is just find another sample so I can show you guys how to use multiple samples. And we'll grab anything else. Let's see what's here. Let's just grab that for the sake of the tutorial again. Okay, let's play that. let's mute that ARP so they won't be ridiculously out of key. Bring these back. Excellent. So cool. So now here we have Pro Tools with Ableton together. And the output that we're hearing here is the output of Ableton, and we're hearing the left and the right side. If we wanted to use them separately, in other words, have different tracks for the tracks coming from Ableton, this one, let's say, on one track in Pro Tools and this one another track, we can do that simply by going here to Rewire Output and setting this one to 5 and 6. Okay, this one to 7 and 8, and I'll tell you why I chose 5 and 6 and 7 and 8. And the reason for that is because I have my auxiliaries that I'm using here for my effects and delays. I'm using bus 3, 2, and 1, so I started from bus 5 and 6. So this one here, we'll create a new track right next to it. Okay, same thing. And if it were a stereo sound or mono sound, all up to you, depends what you want to bring in. Auxiliary, so this one is set right, and this one we'll call 5 and 6. Let's actually call it 7 and 8. Okay, and let's actually create one more. Okay, aux, same deal. I'm going to keep them both in stereo because I'm using loops and things like that. And this one we'll call 5 and 6. Okay, so this is the stereo out of Ableton, okay, which is this one right here. Okay. And this one will be output 5 and 6. Okay, so we'll go up here, and again we'll do another instrument live, and to save time, right, we'll make this one. Okay, and we can copy this one over and just change the output. I'm holding Option as I'm doing that, and we'll make this one 7 and 8. So now we were to play them, we can hear both of those loops on two different tracks. And I'll show you what I made. That was the beat by itself, coming from Ableton. And that was the piano. So that's all in a nutshell. That is how we use Pro Tools and Ableton together, and how we can set it up. Just remember, launch Pro Tools first. Make sure you create a track and add Ableton in the inserts as, here we go, as a plugin. And if you want to use the master output of Ableton, make sure you set it up for the outputs could be left and right. Okay, launch Ableton next, and they should be in sync and working in harmony. Okay, if you want to later on, as you're adding more tracks into Ableton, bring them into Pro Tools on separate tracks, then just remember you have to create the tracks you want in Ableton and assign their input to whatever outputs you're setting up in Ableton. In other words, here we are in Ableton. I've set up two tracks. This track I wanted to come out of 5 and 6, going into a separate track in Pro Tools, and this one 7 and 8 going into a separate track in Pro Tools. So there you guys have it. That is Pro Tools with Ableton via Rewire. I hope you guys have enjoyed the tutorial. I'll see you guys soon. Ciao for now.